Okay, so today we're going to be talking about where I live, the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, also known as the UP. The episode's called Yooper Facts and Opinion. How remote are we? Bars everywhere. So I'm going to deal with topics like that. But I do have a little bit of an announcement to make beforehand. Because this podcast is growing ever so slightly, at least, I'm actually going to commit a little bit more to it. So I'm going to try to do 5 episodes per week minimum. And that basically means that I'm going to take one day out of the week to get through 5 episodes and release them into the wild. So that's sort of a big announcement, not the hugest announcement of all time, but I figured I'd mention that because that's something I'm going to be doing on this Friday actually. And I'm probably going to be having some more guests on my podcast at some point and whatnot. So look forward to that. And, it's one of those things where it depends on if the other people are ready, willing, and able to be a guest on my little show. And that can be easier said than done because, in addition to everything else, you have scheduling conflicts and, well, you know how it is out there. So, anyway, let's dig right into it. So, as Wikipedia says, the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, also known as Upper Michigan or colloquially the UP, is the northern and more elevated of the two major landmasses that make up the U.S. state of Michigan. It is separated from the lower peninsula by the Straits of Mackinac, or Mackinac. I still sometimes call them Mackinac just because. But anyway, it is bounded primarily by Lake Superior to the north, separated from the Canadian province of Ontario at the east end by the St. Mary's River, and flanked by Lake Huron and Lake Michigan along much of its south. So, yeah, that's some of the very basic geographical stuff about the UP. I might have even mentioned some of that before. But here's a little fun fact: Mackinac means big turtle in Ojibwe. And yeah, there you go. So it is part of the Great Lakes region, as you surely have guessed, of which Lake Superior is the largest and the world's largest freshwater lake by surface area. Geez, I can't even really talk. Freshwater. I was trying to merge surface area with water. That's what happened there. Um, so yeah, the UP is heavily forested, but despite claims that it's absolutely ultra remote, you actually won't find nothing but pure wilderness everywhere you look. We do have things like Walmarts, I movie theaters. I live in a area that has 2 universities. They're not the hugest universities of all time, but still significant. And in fact, even in areas that are considered more remote, there's actually a solid chance you'll encounter other human beings before very long. So you can't really go that far or that long without seeing somebody somewhere, probably. I'm sure most states probably have some remote areas where there aren't as many people. I think Wyoming is actually pretty remote, Alaska as well, kind of famously remote from other areas, not a huge population. Also, even though I could go on and on about natural wonders of the area, you can, of course, find other nice places in other American states, like the Apostle Islands National Lakeshore in Wisconsin, which looks like a pretty decent area. So, you can't really say that we're probably the most beautiful place on earth or whatever. We're not exactly that enchanting. I don't know. There's definitely nice scenery. Waterfalls are pretty plentiful in the UP. So I'm not trying to trash talk it either. But let's put things in perspective and admit that there's plenty of natural wonder in other parts of the world. And So historically, the economy here has been dominated by mining, logging, and tourism, though mining has declined significantly to the point where mining is mostly just used as a way to promote tourism now. I think really I only know one person who worked as a miner, and that was my uncle. But I can't even think of his name right now. Joe. There we go. How could I forget the name Joe? Well, it happened. Maybe a sign of early onset Alzheimer's. I don't know. But anyway, he was, as far as I know, like the only person I know who actually worked in a mine. Well, I guess that might not be true. There was somebody I used to work with who said she was going into the mining industry. So technically there might be two. But the UP's largest city is Marquette, with something like 20,629 people. So even the largest city doesn't really have that many people, obviously. It's still like a small town. The other most populous little cities include Sault Ste. Marie, Escanaba, Menominee, Houghton, and Iron Mountain. My puny, Jesus Christ. Again, I can't talk. My puny little city of Hancock has only about 4,498 people. So, yeah, that's not definitely not that many people. Though it often seems to me like the population is increasing, the actual figures make me look like an ignorant hick because it's not really increasing. They say the UP's population actually decreased by about 10,000 between the years 2010 and 2020. Although I did hear that the tourism actually increased at around 2020 during the pandemic. So it's a little bit of a source of confusion if you're really trying to nail down the proper population size, because some of those people might have just been tourists, but some of them, who knows, maybe they actually stuck around. Uh, anyway, the population decrease is happening despite the state of Michigan overall actually having a population increase, from what I understand. So, more people obviously are flocking downstate than they are up here. Although I do have a little bit of a theory on that. I think that as the world's water problem, the shortages and whatnot that we've heard so much about. But anyway, as that happens more and more, I think more people are gonna discover the Upper Peninsula and they're gonna be like, "Well, there's water over there. Let's go over there." So people who never heard of us before may start actually becoming quite aware of us as the crisis actually continues and grows. So you hear about a lot of drought and stuff, and I think some people are going to be like, well, let's go to the places where there's water. That would include, of course, the other Great Lakes states. So I'm not just talking about us, but we would be included in that hypothetically. Anyway, we've got timber, mining, tourism, and a small manufacturing sector, which continues to employ some people in the region's um, economy. And, when they talk about tourism here, let's face it, a lot of that involves restaurants and bars that cater to snowmobilers and people like that. So we've got, bars everywhere. And yeah, you can't really go too far without encountering some sort of alcoholic. There are some decent natural wonders here, like a lot of people will bring up our waterfalls. I mentioned them earlier. And even though I have never been there, I have heard some good things about the Eben Ice Caves over in Alger County. So, unfortunately, I have not really experienced a lot of these little tourist attractions myself. I probably should see some more of them in the not too distant future. Maybe I will. I don't know. Do a little bit more touristy stuff. But I just wanted to give, a basic idea of what this area is like. And of course, I could get into greater detail on this in future installments. But for now, I'm going to wrap it up and just remind you that I'm going to have at least 5 episodes per week. So often on whatever day I take off from other activities. So look forward to that and have a nice day.